Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, The Collector Beneath the Floorboards. Let the shadows speak. Part 1. The First Loose Tooth. It was the kind of night that felt like it had been simmering for centuries. The air hung heavy over the Arizona cul-de-sac, thick with heat and stillness. Outside, sprinklers hissed faintly from neglected lawns, the scent of damp earth rising into the dusk like something half-forgotten. Plastic toys lay strewn across scorched patches of dead grass, their colors bleached to pastel by the sun. Inside the LeBlanc home, the air conditioning had died hours ago, and the ceiling fan above the kitchen table did little more than stir the heat around. Monica LeBlanc stood at the sink, a cold beer sweating in one hand, and stared out at the orange-tinted haze swallowing the neighborhood. Behind her, a familiar shriek split the silence. "Mom, he's gonna bite her." Monica turned just in time to see the television flicker off, her daughter, Ellie, groaning dramatically on the couch. "You always turn it off at the good part," Ellie whined. Monica raised an eyebrow. "And you always ask after bedtime. It's not even 10. It's 9:32. Close enough." Ellie slumped back with all the indignation a 9-year-old could muster, crossing her arms and glaring at the blank screen. "You can finish Dracula tomorrow," Monica said. "Your brain will thank me." Ellie didn't respond, just tugged at a loose molar with one hand, her tongue poking at the gap beside it. "Still loose?" Monica asked, sitting beside her. "It's really wiggly now," Ellie mumbled. "Maybe he'll come tonight." Monica smiled, brushing a sweaty lock of hair behind Ellie's ear. "The tooth fairy?" Ellie nodded, but her face was serious. "Yeah, but not the glitter one Lucy talks about. Mine is different." Part 2. The Whispering Jar. That night, Monica did what all exhausted single moms eventually do. She passed out fully clothed on top of the bed covers, with the TV playing low reruns of a reality show she didn't care about. Somewhere in the middle of a scene involving a wedding dress and a screaming bride, Monica's consciousness gave out. Upstairs, the house was quiet. Still, but not asleep. Ellie lay in bed, facing the wall, eyes open. The night light, shaped like a crescent moon, cast soft golden arcs across her pale sheets. A ceramic jar rested on her nightstand, painted purple with little stars, and moons her mom had helped her stencil years ago. But Monica didn't know what was inside it now. No one did. Ellie reached for the jar slowly, fingers shaking just a bit. She twisted off the lid and leaned in close. "I have it," she whispered. "It came out, just like I promised." The room responded with silence, and then a soft tick like a nail tapping porcelain from the inside. Ellie smiled. Earlier that summer, she'd found the jar buried beneath the floorboards in her closet. She'd only been looking for a lost action figure when one of the old wooden planks shifted beneath her weight. Beneath it, wrapped in a piece of wax paper, was the jar, and inside a single baby tooth, old and yellow. She remembered the air smelling wrong when she'd opened it, like rust and flowers gone bad. There'd been something else, too, a voice, or the memory of one, faint, curious, whispering questions like it was sniffing her thoughts. That night, she'd had a dream about a tall figure in a violet cloak, standing beside her bed with hands full of teeth. He didn't speak. He just watched her until she woke up with her pillow soaked in sweat. She hadn't told her mom. She couldn't, because somehow Ellie had understood the rules even without hearing them out loud. Bring a tooth. Put it in the jar. Wait. Tonight was the night. The second tooth had come out during dinner, right in the middle of her chicken nuggets. She'd cleaned the blood off it with a paper towel and slipped it into the jar like a secret. Now, she pressed the lid back on and nestled into bed, heart fluttering. The house creaked in the way old houses do, random and groaning like it had opinions of its own. Ellie didn't mind. She liked it. The noises made her feel like something bigger was listening. Outside her window, the wind had picked up, but none of the trees moved. Only the sound. No sway, no shadows. And then, the hum. Low at first, like a refrigerator whirring. Then higher, like bees swarming inside her skull. Ellie sat up, clutching her blanket. The jar began to rattle softly on the nightstand. The noise stopped, and something stepped out of the closet. The figure was tall, at least 7 feet, and impossibly thin like a walking candle flame. He wore robes of dark violet that shimmered without moving, as if underwater. His face was long and narrow, with skin the color of polished ash. Where eyes should have been, there were only spirals, slowly turning, never blinking. He didn't speak, but Ellie heard him in her head. "You brought it. You kept your promise." She nodded. He bent slightly at the waist, elegant and strange, and reached for the jar. But he didn't take it. Instead, he placed a small object beside it. A tooth. Not hers. This one was blackened, cracked, and still glistening with something Ellie didn't want to name. She looked up at him. "Is it someone else's?" The spirals turned slowly. "The first gift is always mine. The rest are trades." And then, just like that, he was gone. Monica jolted awake around 3 a.m., vaguely aware that she'd heard something. Maybe the TV, maybe a dream. She listened for Ellie's breathing over the baby monitor. It was steady, safe. She told herself everything was fine, that the night was just hot and strange, that the creaking she'd heard was the house settling. She didn't know about the jar. She didn't know about the trade. Not yet. Part 3. Things that shouldn't be here. Monica didn't remember falling asleep again. She just remembered dreaming. In it, she was standing in Ellie's room. Only it wasn't Ellie's room. The walls were gone, replaced by a vast, cavernous darkness. A crib sat in the center of the floor, ancient and wooden, and something inside it writhed gently beneath a violet silk blanket. She didn't want to look, but she had to look. She stepped forward, arms trembling, heart pounding like a hammer in wet clay. She pulled back the blanket and saw. Monica woke, gasping, the air sharp and dry in her lungs. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled strange. Not bad, exactly, just wrong. Like something had been cooking and forgotten. Like something sweet had died. She sniffed around the stove and sink, but couldn't find a source. When she passed by the trash can, the scent seemed to disappear entirely. Weird. She poured a cup of lukewarm coffee, not even bothering to reheat it. Her hands were still shaking. She hadn't had dreams like that since the months after Ellie's father died. Not the grief ones, the other ones. The ones that made her wake up wondering if someone had been in the room with her. She looked toward the ceiling. Ellie was still up there. "Did you have any weird dreams last night?" Monica asked over cereal. Ellie looked up from her bowl of Lucky Charms, shrugged, then smiled in a way that made Monica's stomach turn a little. "Not weird, just different." "What does that mean?" "It means he left me something." Monica raised an eyebrow. The tooth fairy," Ellie said, "but not the silly one from books. Mine, the real one." Monica froze. "You mean the one who gave you the $5? Ellie shook her head slowly, spoon hovering just above her bowl. "No, Mom. That guy came after the first tooth. This time, he didn't give me money. He gave me a present." Monica's skin prickled. "What kind of present?" Ellie reached into her pajama pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a tooth. Dark brown, flat-edged, too wide to be hers. Monica stared at it in disgust. "Jesus, Ellie, where did you get that?" "He gave it to me," she said softly. "It's not mine. He said it came from someone else. But it's part of the deal." "What deal?" But Ellie just smiled and shoved the tooth back in her pocket like it was a pebble she'd found on the playground. That night, Monica lay in bed scrolling through parenting forums, reading about kids and imaginary friends. Everything from typical developmental psychology to full-on demonology. Some articles reassured her. Most didn't. One particularly fringe comment thread talked about dream binders, imaginary friends that weren't so imaginary. They described children who found gifts from figures in dreams. Teeth, old coins, bits of wax. One post even mentioned something about jars and whispers from under the bed. She felt cold sweat gather at her temples. She heard a thump above her, then another. Monica turned off her phone and went upstairs. Ellie's door creaked as she pushed it open. The room was dark. Not just dark, but thick. The moonlight that normally spilled in through the windows felt like it had been cut off, like the outside world didn't exist anymore. Ellie lay still in bed, breathing slow. Monica stepped toward the nightstand. There was the jar, but now it had 3 teeth in it, and none of them looked like Ellie's. One was clearly from an adult, bigger, yellowed, with a metal filling glinting under the nightlight. The room seemed to shiver, and Monica, without fully understanding why, reached out toward the jar. Her fingers brushed the ceramic rim. Whispering, a sound slithered into her ears. Not from outside, from within. A voice not in English, not in any language she knew, but she understood. Not with her mind, but with something deeper, older. The 4th tooth must be earned. Monica pulled her hand back like she'd been burned. Ellie didn't stir, but the jar rattled once. Just once, as if acknowledging her. The next morning, Monica told herself it had been a dream, a hallucination, a leftover trace of that bizarre post she read online. But when she went into Ellie's room to open the curtains, the jar was still there, and it still held 3 teeth. One of them was clearly chipped. She recognized it. It looked exactly like one of her own molars, lost in a car accident when she was 21. Impossible, wasn't it? Part 4. The Rules of the Exchange. Monica sat at the kitchen table, turning the chipped molar over and over in her palm. She hadn't touched it in years. It had been extracted in a sterile dentist's office after a crash on the eye. 40 left her with a split jaw and a fractured wrist. She remembered the dentist holding up the cracked tooth in gloved fingers, joking that it looked like a tiny meteorite. She remembered tossing it in the trash with gauze and painkillers. But here it was, in her daughter's nightstand jar. She gripped the edge of the table hard enough to make her knuckles ache. "Okay," she whispered. "You want an explanation? Then let's go find one." She waited until Ellie was at school and pried up the floorboard in the back of her closet. It came up easier than it should have. Underneath wasn't just insulation. It was space. A hollow cavity that seemed far deeper than any crawl space should have allowed. She reached down and felt something slick and smooth. Ceramic. Another jar. This one was older, dirtier, with a spiderweb of cracks running down its sides. A lid crusted with something black. No label. No decoration. She pulled it out with trembling hands and set it down on the floor. The air around it felt cold. Damp. Like a basement. Like breath. Inside, she found a notebook. It wasn't Ellie's. The handwriting was too neat, too formal. Adult cursive in fading blue ink. The first page read, "The rules of the exchange, as dictated by the one who listens below. 1 tooth, 1 favor. The collector does not forget a debt. The 4th gift must be paid in blood. No offering may be taken back. No, I must look upon the true form." Monica stopped breathing. She flipped to the next page. It was a log, a list of names, dates, items given. Top incisor, canine, 3rd molar. Some were labeled with approved. Others were crossed out with a thick red X. Then a new page, blank, until, slowly, as if ink was seeping from the page itself, a name appeared. Ellie LeBlanc. 2 teeth given. 3rd pending. Monica dropped the notebook like it burned. That night, she tried to ask Ellie directly, "Sweetheart, she began gently as she tucked her in. "Do you remember where you found that jar?" Ellie nodded, eyes calm, voice even. "In the floor. But I didn't find it. It found me." Monica forced a smile. "And you didn't think to tell me about that?" "I tried," Ellie said. "But the first rule is no one talks unless asked." "Who made that rule?" Ellie's eyes drifted toward the corner of the room, where shadows pooled deepest. "Him." "Ellie, listen to me," Monica said, crouching by the bed. "You didn't make any deal, okay? You're just a kid. Whatever this is, it's pretend. You can say no. I already said yes." Monica's heart dropped. "To what?" "To being part of the collection," Ellie said. "He said I could help. He said I was a good listener." That night, Monica stayed up watching Ellie sleep. The moon was low and heavy in the sky. The jar remained on the nightstand, still and silent, until 3:03 a.m., a perfect time for wrong things to happen. The closet door opened. There was no sound of footsteps, no wind, just a gradual shift in gravity, like the world tilted slightly in favor of something else. The collector stepped into the room again. Monica saw him for the first time, and he saw her. She couldn't move. Not paralyzed, exactly, more like held. The collector's face was long, skull-like, but not skeletal. His skin had the texture of dried leather, and his mouth, when it opened, didn't have teeth. It had holes, rows of empty sockets, as if his purpose wasn't to chew, but to take. Take what was missing. Take what you were missing. He extended a finger toward Ellie. She smiled and held up another tooth. Monica tried to scream, but something in her throat had frozen. She watched as the collector took the tooth, turned, and placed something else on the nightstand. A slip of folded parchment. Then he was gone. Ellie rolled over and slept peacefully. The jar rattled once. Just once. At dawn, Monica opened the parchment with shaking fingers. It read, "Third gift accepted. Blood next." And beneath that, "You may choose the source." Part 5. Blood Ode. The note sat on the kitchen counter for hours. Monica couldn't bring herself to throw it away. Couldn't burn it. Couldn't even tear it in half. She had tried. The parchment refused. It was like trying to rip muscle. Something alive. The ink never smudged, even underwater. "You may choose the source." It echoed through her skull on a loop. Over breakfast, while brushing her teeth, while watching Ellie walk to the bus in her purple windbreaker with her two calm eyes and her too steady smile. Something inside her child was different. Monica had always believed in stages: childhood, adolescence, rebellion, independence, but this wasn't any of that. This was transformation. By midday, the whispers had returned. They came not as words, but impressions. Not suggestions, but urges. At first, they only nudged. Thoughts like, what if you don't choose? Will he take someone else? Will he take you? Then they began offering options. Names. Faces. People Monica hadn't seen in years. Her high school rival. Her old boss. Her estranged sister. She laughed bitterly when the name Jeremy LeBlanc whispered into her mind. The man who gave her a child and then disappeared when fatherhood got too heavy. But she hadn't seen Jeremy in almost a decade. He could be dead. Or worse, he could be available. Monica poured herself wine at 3 p.m. It didn't help. By 4 p.m., the air in the house felt thick and wet, like breathing through a towel soaked in lukewarm water. She opened the windows. It didn't help either. At 4:07, she found herself standing in Ellie's doorway, just watching. Her daughter sat cross-legged on the carpet, surrounded by tiny white objects. At first, Monica thought they were doll parts. But no, they were teeth. Not Ellie's. Dozens of them. Molars. Incisors. Canines. Too many to be hers alone. Ellie looked up. "Do you want to help me sort them?" Monica's voice cracked. "Where did you get all of those?" Ellie smiled. "He gave them to me. For practice." "Practice for what?" Ellie tilted her head, eyes wide and innocent. For choosing. That night, Monica didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, remembering the notebook in the crawl space. Rule 3. The fourth gift must be paid in blood. She wondered what the other rules really meant. What counted as favor? Who had the collector help before? Were there others like her? She opened her laptop, Googled phrases like tooth fairy, ancient folklore blood, entities that collect human parts, children offering body parts for favors. Most of the results were useless, until she found a forum thread buried deep in an archive subdomain. The fourth tooth theory, collectors and how they breed echoes. It was written like a conspiracy manifesto, but the details were hauntingly familiar. The collector doesn't eat, it grows. It adds what you give it into itself, and then it lets pieces of itself leak back out into the people who've offered. Each child becomes a mirror of the part they surrendered. Some lose their ability to feel love. Some grow quiet and secretive. Some stop sleeping altogether. But once the fourth gift is accepted, there is no more child, only a part of the collection. Monica slammed the laptop shut. She felt sick, sweat soaked through her shirt. She stumbled into the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. When she looked up, there were teeth in the sink. 5 of them. Perfect. White. Gleaming. None were hers. She barely made it down the stairs before vomiting in the kitchen sink. She wasn't sure if what she saw was real. But that was the problem now, wasn't it? Everything was both real and unreal. And Ellie was slipping away. She made a decision at 2:22 a.m. A choice. The same way a person might decide to cut off a finger to stop the spread of rot. If a blood price had to be paid, if that was the only way to keep Ellie human, then it wouldn't come from anyone innocent. It wouldn't come from her. She pulled out her old phone, the one she kept for emergencies, the one that still had old contacts saved. She scrolled until she found his name. Jeremy LeBlanc. Last seen 2 years ago. Last text. You're the strong one. You'll figure it out. She hit call and prayed he was still weak enough to answer. Part 6. Father Forgotten. Jeremy agreed to meet at a truck stop just outside Winslow, halfway between his job site and whatever bar he probably lived behind now. Monica hadn't told him much, just that it was about Ellie, that she needed to see him. In person. He hadn't asked questions. He never had. She sat in the back booth, hands wrapped around a mug of burnt coffee that tasted like tire rubber and copper. The waitress kept refilling it out of habit, and Monica kept drinking it because it gave her hands something to do. Jeremy showed up 20 minutes late, wearing paint-stained jeans and a smug grin that hadn't aged a day. "Mon," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Damn, you look like you've seen a ghost." Monica stared at him for a long time. She didn't respond. "I mean it," he said. "You okay?" She didn't know how to answer that anymore. Instead, she reached into her purse, pulled out a small paper envelope, and set it on the table. Jeremy raised an eyebrow. "What's this, a paternity test I forgot about?" Monica didn't blink. "Open it." He did. Inside was a tooth. Yellowed. Flat. Definitely not a child's. Jeremy made a face and slid the envelope back toward her. "Gross. Why are you carrying this around?" She leaned in. "Because that's yours." The look on his face shifted slowly. From mockery, to doubt, to something that looked a lot like fear. "I lost that when I was 13, he muttered. "Skateboarding accident. Dentist said it shattered in 2 places. You remember what you did with it?" He blinked. "I don't know, flushed it? Buried it? What kind of question is that?" Monica pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A picture lit up. A photo of the jar. The one from under the floor. And another of the notebook. Jeremy's face went pale. "I don't know what the hell this is," he started. But Monica cut him off. "She chose you." He frowned. "Who?" "The collector. Or the thing pretending to be a tooth fairy." It gave your tooth to Ellie, as part of a bargain. That's insane. No, she said, voice flat. Insane would be not believing it after what I've seen. Jeremy scoffed and slid out of the booth. Look, I don't know what kind of weird cult you've gotten into, but I'm not playing along. He turned to leave. Monica stood. If you don't help, he'll take her, she said. Or worse, she'll become him. Jeremy paused. I don't owe you a damn thing, he muttered. No, she said softly, but maybe you owe her. He didn't respond, but he didn't walk away either. They drove back in silence. Jeremy tapped his knee the whole time. Monica clenched the steering wheel tight, watching the mile markers count down like a ticking clock. When they pulled into her driveway, Ellie was already standing at the window, watching. Jeremy noticed. Why does that feel like a trap? Because it probably is, Monica replied. Inside, Ellie greeted him like nothing had changed, like she wasn't surrounded by jars, like the living room didn't smell faintly of metal and lavender. Hi, Daddy, she said. Jeremy blinked. You remember me? Of course I do. Then she walked up and handed him a tooth. Not hers, but fresh, still red. Jeremy turned white. What the hell is this? Ellie smiled. He gave me a choice, and I chose to share. Monica stepped between them. Don't take it. Jeremy looked between them both. Take what? She's testing you, Monica said. It's not a gift, it's a binding. Jeremy dropped the tooth like it stung. It rattled on the floor. The lights flickered. Ellie's smile didn't fade, but something in her eyes went distant. Like she wasn't just Ellie anymore. Like she was watching from the other side of a mirror. That night, the collector came again. Monica didn't sleep. Jeremy stayed in the guest room, too afraid to leave, too ashamed to run. And in the quiet, Ellie sat cross-legged on her bed, whispering to someone who wasn't there. You're right, she said. They'll never understand. She placed another tooth in the jar. It wasn't hers. And somewhere far beneath the house, something purred. Part 7. The Eye That Shouldn't See. Monica found the fourth tooth on the pillow beside her. Not Ellie's. Not hers. Jeremy's. She didn't need DNA to tell her that. The dark crack along the root, the silver filling near the top. It was the same molar she remembered from his constant clenching, the one he always complained about but never fixed. But Jeremy was still in the guest room, sleeping. Wasn't he? She bolted down the hallway and threw the door open. The bed was empty. The sheets were damp. The window was open. And on the desk, in place of a goodbye note, sat a single word scrawled in trembling ink. Running. She didn't know if it meant he was running, or if she was supposed to. Ellie was in the kitchen, pouring herself a bowl of cereal like it was just another Saturday. Monica stared at her. The way her daughter's hands moved, precise, mechanical, adult. The way she didn't blink for too long. Where's Jeremy? Monica asked. Ellie shrugged. He didn't want to stay. Did you do something? Another shrug. He made his choice. Monica stepped forward. You said you weren't going to hurt anyone. I didn't. The girl smiled. He hurt himself. Monica collapsed into the chair. The fourth gift. It had been paid. But she hadn't chosen. The rules had changed. No, she had misunderstood them. You may choose the source. But if you didn't, then he would. She waited until Ellie was asleep before she returned to the floorboards. This time, she brought a crowbar. She threw out more planks, found a tunnel beneath the crawl space that hadn't been there before. Something too smooth, too symmetrical, carved like an esophagus into the earth. She followed it with a flashlight. The walls pulsed faintly with warmth. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a circular chamber lined with jars. Hundreds of them. No dust. No cobwebs. Each labeled in tight, perfect handwriting. Names. Dates. Teeth. Gifts. At the center of the room was an altar. And on that altar was something wrapped in velvet. Monica reached out, hands shaking. She knew she wasn't supposed to. She remembered Rule 5. No, I must look upon the true form. But rules were for people who agreed to the game. She hadn't. Not really. She pulled back the velvet and saw him. The Collector wasn't made of skin or bone or cartilage. He was structure, a framework of other people's parts, assembled into something humanoid but fundamentally wrong. Eyes that were still wet blinked across his chest. Dozens of teeth floated inside a glass jaw that clicked softly. His body pulsed with whispers, echoes of voices from every bargain ever struck. He turned toward her and spoke with every voice at once. "You should not have come here." Monica stumbled backward. Her nose bled instantly. The flashlight exploded in her grip. The tunnel pulsed red behind her. She ran, crawled, clawed her way back through the passage as the earth trembled. And behind her, the Collector laughed. Not with amusement, but with certainty, because he already knew what would happen next. When Monica emerged back into the house, Ellie was waiting. But it wasn't Ellie anymore. Not completely. Her eyes were spirals now, soft and endless. Her teeth were perfect. Too perfect. "Did you see him?" she asked. Monica fell to her knees. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't understand." Ellie stepped forward and cupped her mother's chin. "You do now." Monica looked up. Tears streamed down her face. "Can I still choose?" Ellie's head tilted. "You can always choose. That's the trick." Part 8. A jar for her name. Monica didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bed with the note in her lap, the fourth tooth on her nightstand, and the house breathing softly around her like a dying animal. Ellie hadn't spoken again, not with words, but her presence filled every room. She was humming now, a low tune, childlike, not quite any melody Monica recognized. It echoed through the vents, through the pipes, through Monica's own jawbone. "You can always choose." The words repeated like a scratched record. But the choice was no longer simple, because the rules were shifting. No longer a trade. Now it was a transition. Sometime before dawn, Monica returned to the tunnel. She brought matches, not because she expected the earth to burn, but because she needed to try. She walked the length again, barefoot this time, offering her pain like a peace offering. The Collector was waiting, still wrapped in flesh not his own, still leaking whispers from 100 mouths. You offer without clarity. You seek without purpose. Monica stood tall. "No more teeth," she said. "No more blood. No more rules." The Collector tilted his head. "Then what do you offer?" She pulled something from her coat. It was a jar. Small. Clay. Inside, a single white pearl of a molar, Ellie's first. Not part of any deal. Just a memory. A truth. A gift never meant for him. "This doesn't belong to you," Monica said. None of it ever did. The chamber rumbled. The jars on the shelves began to vibrate, their labels unraveling. "You misunderstand. I do not steal. I accept. Always by invitation. Always by consent. Then take mine." Monica stepped forward. "I offer myself." The Collector paused. His head rotated fully backward and then forward again. "One for one." "Yes," Monica said. "Her for me." He raised one impossibly long arm and pointed behind her. Ellie stood at the mouth of the chamber. She was barefoot too. No spiral eyes this time. Just a girl, 9 years old, with a scraped knee and a nervous smile. "You don't have to," she whispered. Monica turned, fighting the tears. "I already did." The Collector opened both arms. The altar behind him split open like a jaw. Not a bone, of space. The black inside it was not void but density. Weight. Pressure. Monica stepped forward, but Ellie reached out. "No," she said. "It's not the right trade." "You're my daughter," Monica said. Ellie looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time in days, and whispered, "You still don't understand." And then Ellie ran. Into the collector. Not away. She stepped into the altar like she'd always belonged there. Monica screamed and lunged, but it was too late. The space sealed behind her with a shhhk sound, like teeth clicking shut. The chamber fell silent. The jars stopped trembling. The whispers vanished. Only Monica remained. When she emerged from the crawl space, the house was brighter, cooler. She called Ellie's name 1,000 times. No answer. She tore up the walls, the furniture, the floorboards. Nothing. She found the old notebook, flipped to the final page. One name remained. Ellie LeBlanc, for gifts given, status, integrated. And beneath it, Monica LeBlanc, pending. That night, Monica placed a new jar on Ellie's nightstand. Inside, she left a note. It said, "If you ever come back, this is yours. No more trades. No more rules. Just you." She sealed the lid and waited. Years passed. Monica never moved. Neighbors came and went. People whispered about the woman who kept her daughter's room untouched. Some said she lost a child. Some said she was waiting for something worse. No one ever saw inside the attic. Not after the spiral symbols started showing up on the mailbox. On the 12th anniversary of Ellie's disappearance, Monica disappeared too. No signs of struggle. No note. Just an empty house. And one new jar on the nightstand. Inside, a tooth and a slip of parchment. Debt settled. Collection complete. Candle epilogue. From the Winslow Gazette, March 14th. Local woman missing. Ties to unsolved 2012 case suspected. Police reopened the cold case of Ellie LeBlanc this week after her mother, Monica LeBlanc, was reported missing from her home. The interior showed no signs of forced entry. Authorities found a single item on the second floor. A child's clay jar containing an adult molar and a faded piece of paper reading "Debt settled. Collection complete." FBI investigators are now re-examining a string of unsolved disappearances across the state, all involving missing children, dental artifacts, and symbols carved into homes resembling spirals or tooth-like runes. "We're not calling it cult-related yet," said Agent Felder. "But what we're seeing here, it's not random."
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.